The morning air in Charleston smelled of magnolia and salt. The tide was low, and the faint hum of cicadas carried through the half-open kitchen window. Evan Whitmore sat at the table, his coffee untouched, his eyes fixed on the soft sway of the curtains. Across from him, his wife moved through the kitchen with quiet grace, too quiet, too deliberate. "Did you sleep well?" she asked, her tone casual, her back turned. "Yeah," he said. "You?" "Fine." The sound of the spoon clinking against her cup was sharper than it should have been. Evan's eyes followed her movements. He knew her rhythm, he'd known it for 15 years, but lately, she seemed offbeat. She'd always been a morning person, humming softly while she made breakfast, barefoot on the cool tile floor. Now she barely looked at him. He tried to brush it off. People change. Marriage slows down. But the silence between them, it wasn't the peaceful kind. It was the heavy, waiting kind. "Are you still heading to Savannah this weekend?" she asked suddenly, eyes still on her phone. "Yeah," Evan said. "Conference runs through Sunday." "Good." She smiled faintly, still scrolling. He wanted to ask, "Good for who?" But he didn't. Instead, he watched her fingers dance across the phone screen, too quickly, too nervously. When he stood and stepped closer, she locked the screen. Something twisted in his chest. That evening, the city glowed gold under the streetlights. The Whitmore's house sat on the edge of the historic district, where cobblestones met oak-lined streets. Evan returned late from work, parking beneath the live oaks whose branches stretched like arms over the street. He walked in, expecting to hear the faint sound of a TV or the aroma of dinner, but the house was still. "Clara," he called. No answer. Her car was in the driveway. Her purse was on the counter. Her phone charger was still plugged in. He frowned. It wasn't until nearly 11 that he heard her come in, heels clicking softly across the wood floor. "Hey," she said, a little breathless. "Sorry, I went for a walk. Needed some air." "In heels?" She froze for half a second. "I changed after." "Right." He looked at her, her flushed cheeks, her slightly messy hair. The scent of perfume hung in the air, not her usual one. Something new. Warmer. Muskier. "Everything okay?" he asked quietly. She smiled, that calm, practiced smile. "Of course." But when she turned away, he saw it, a faint red mark on her neck. The next morning, Charleston woke to rain. It came soft and steady, tapping against the windows like a quiet confession. Evan stood at the window, watching the water trail down the glass. Behind him, Clara moved around the room, humming softly. That sound, familiar, comforting, somehow made everything worse. He wanted to ask where she'd been last night. He wanted to believe her when she said she'd gone for a walk. But something inside him had already stopped believing. At work, the day dragged. He was an architect, methodical, observant, a man who noticed small things, symmetry, balance, structure. And lately, the structure of his marriage was all wrong. At lunch, he opened his phone and stared at a photo taken 3 years ago, Clara laughing on the porch, sunlight in her hair. He could still feel the warmth of that day. But that woman, she wasn't the same one who'd come home at 11 last night smelling of someone else's perfume. He didn't know what was worse, the suspicion or the silence. That evening, he came home early. He parked a block away and waited in the rain, watching the house through the blur of his windshield. At 6:47 p.m., a car he didn't recognize pulled up. A black Audi. Clara stepped out of the front door, umbrella in hand. The driver got out, tall, confident, expensive-looking suit. He took the umbrella from her, opened it above her head. They laughed about something. He touched her arm, just lightly. But it was enough. Evan felt the air leave his lungs. He watched her lean in, too close, too easy, and then they got into the Audi together. He didn't follow. He just sat there, his hands gripping the steering wheel, rain pounding on the roof, heart thudding like a warning drum. 2 days later, he finally did something. He called his friend Marcus, an old college buddy who now worked as a private investigator. "I just need to know," Evan said. His voice was low, controlled. "Either I'm losing my mind or—" Marcus didn't need him to finish. "Send me her schedule, a photo, the usual. I'll handle it." By Friday, Evan had an envelope. Inside were photos, grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. Clara at a restaurant downtown. The man, Jordan Miles, a local real estate developer. Handsome. Married, according to Marcus. The photos didn't lie. Neither did the body language, the soft lean across the table, her hand brushing his. And then the final photo, outside the Dewberry Hotel, her hand on his chest, his on her waist. Evan sat in his office long after sunset, the photos spread out before him. His hands were steady. His face wasn't. He thought of every moment they'd shared, every promise, every word. 15 years, and now he saw it all unraveling in still frames. He didn't rage. Not yet. He just froze. That weekend, Clara was warm again, talkative, playful even. She made his favorite breakfast, kissed his cheek, asked about his projects. It was almost convincing. Almost. But now, every touch felt like a lie. Every smile, a performance. On Sunday, as they sat on the porch watching the rain ease off, she reached for his hand. He flinched before he could stop himself. She noticed. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said, forcing a smile. "Just tired." That night, he dreamed of her standing at the end of a long hallway, reaching for him, but fading with every step he took. When he woke, she was gone. Her side of the bed was cold. The following week, Evan did something he'd never done before, he followed her. He waited outside her Pilates studio. He watched her come out in leggings and a raincoat, her hair tied up. She glanced around once, then got into her car and drove, not home, not to work. He tailed her through the narrow streets of downtown Charleston, past the old churches and pastel facades, until she turned into a parking garage near Broad Street. Minutes later, she walked into the Dewberry. Same hotel from the photos. Evan sat in his car for half an hour, staring at the entrance. Then he got out, walked across the wet street, and went inside. The lobby smelled like lemon polish and lilies. The concierge smiled. "Good afternoon, sir. Can I help you?" Evan's voice was calm. Too calm. "No, thank you. Just meeting someone." He took the elevator to the 7th floor, Marcus had told him that's where they'd gone before. He stepped into the hallway. It was quiet, thick carpet, muted lights. He could hear faint laughter from behind one door. Room 714. He stood there for a full minute, his heart slamming in his chest. Then he knocked. A pause. A muffled voice, Clara's. "Who is it?" He didn't answer. The door opened halfway, and froze. Clara's face went pale. Behind her, a man appeared, shirt unbuttoned, startled. "Evan," she whispered. He looked at her, really looked at her. "I thought you were at yoga." No one moved. The air was heavy with perfume, guilt, and the sound of his heart breaking in his chest. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hallway felt too narrow, the air too thick. Evan stood there, motionless, staring at his wife, hair tousled, eyes wide with shock and guilt. Behind her, Jordan adjusted his shirt, his tone low but firm. "Maybe you should leave, man." Evan's head turned slowly toward him. His voice, when it came, was quiet, the kind of quiet that frightens people. "This is my wife." Clara stepped forward, panic trembling in her voice. "Evan, please, let's talk somewhere else." He lifted his hand, not to strike her, just to stop the noise. "No. Here's fine." The man inside the room looked ready to argue, but Evan didn't even look at him again. He looked only at her. "I gave you everything," he said softly. "The house, the peace, the life we built. And you threw it away, for him?" Clara's lip trembled. "It wasn't like that. You don't understand." Evan laughed, not cruelly, but hollowly. "Oh, I understand. I've been understanding for months." She reached out, tears in her eyes, but he stepped back. The silence stretched. Then he took a slow breath, straightened, and said, "You'll hear from my lawyer." He turned and walked away. That night, he didn't go home. He checked into a hotel near the water, the same view they used to watch together during summer fireworks. He sat on the balcony with a bottle of bourbon and stared at the city lights flickering on the harbor. The magnolias below were blooming, thick, white, heavy with fragrance. He remembered how Clara used to tuck one behind her ear when they first moved here. That memory hurt worse than the betrayal. By morning, he'd made a decision. He called Marcus again. "I want everything," he said. "Bank records. Emails. Every thread." Within days, he had it all. Clara had been seeing Jordan for over a year, weekend trips, gifts, even a hidden account. Evan felt something inside him shift, not rage, exactly, but a cold clarity. He wasn't going to scream. He wasn't going to beg. He was going to dismantle their world, piece by piece. Charleston is a small city. Word travels fast, faster when you push it in the right directions. Evan didn't need to shout the truth. He just let it slip in the right ears: Jordan's business partners, the community board, Jordan's wife. By the end of the month, Jordan Miles was a headline: local developer caught in affair scandal, investor pullout follows. Clara tried calling. Texting. Then showing up at his office. He ignored her, until one afternoon, she waited for him in the parking lot. When he saw her, she looked smaller somehow. Fragile. "Evan, please," she said, tears streaking her face. "I made a mistake. It's over with him. I didn't think you cared anymore." He looked at her for a long moment. "I cared," he said quietly. "You just stopped noticing." "Can we fix it?" she whispered. He shook his head. "You can't rebuild a house that's already burned." And with that, he walked past her, no anger, no hatred. Just finality. Months later, Charleston began to heal around him. The nights were quieter now, lonelier, but cleaner somehow. The divorce went through in spring. Clara moved away, no forwarding address. Evan kept the house. The same porch, the same magnolia tree that bloomed every summer. One evening, he sat outside as the sun dipped low, painting the sky pink over the harbor. He could still smell her perfume sometimes, or maybe it was just memory. Marcus stopped by with 2 beers. "You holding up?" Evan smiled faintly. "Getting there." They sat in silence, watching the wind move through the magnolia branches. Finally, Marcus said, "You ever think about forgiving her?" Evan looked out toward the water. "I already did," he said. "That's how I let her go." The scent of magnolia hung in the air, bittersweet, soft, like the end of something that once bloomed beautifully, then died quietly. And for the first time in a long while, Evan felt the peace of being alone, but free.